everyone. My name is Dr. Christina Coblish. I'm a doctor of chiropractic, and I've got Courtney Miller on the other line with me. Courtney, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, how's it going? My name's Courtney Miller. I'm the owner of Shine Light Health coaching to help women with HPV. And I'm also the administrator for Empower and Shine, a support group for helping women with HPV manage the virus naturally.
Awesome. So Courtney and I, we are both moderators and administrators on this Facebook support group, and we really wanted to create this video and just touch on a couple of questions that we often are seeing pop up in the group, and we're really hoping that just by sharing both of our stories and going over a couple of these topics that it might help erase any kind of confusion that people might have going on, feel more supported, and of course more empowered when trying to approach HPV at any stage where you are. In the most natural way possible. So Courtney, I would love for you to just share a little bit here with everybody how you found out about your diagnosis, what it looked like, what it felt like, and how you got to where you are now.
Sure. Yeah. So it started a long time ago. It started back in 2009. I had my first abnormal, I was diagnosed with HPV and didn't think much of it. You're told to go home and live your life normally and try not to freak out about it too much. And, so I did. And I almost kind of forgot about it until a couple years later, when I had an abnormal pap, and then they went ahead and, of course, recommended a colposcopy where they take a little biopsy, which they did, and they found SIN2, which is moderate cervical dysplasia. Again, not knowing much about what was going on and following doctor's orders, they recommended a LEEP, which would be a laser that kind of goes in and cuts out that inner lining of your cervix to help get rid of those cells. And not knowing many other options, I went ahead and I got a LEEP, and they said, go about your normal life, come back in a year and check in. And I came back a year later, I checked in, and the cervical dysplasia had returned worse than before. Instead of SIN2, I now had SIN3, and their offer was another LEEP procedure. To me, that was kind of when the light bulb went off, and I said, well, that doesn't make sense. It didn't work the first time. I don't know why it would work the second time. So I declined having a second LEEP, and I decided at that point I was going to do things my way. I was going to figure out what made sense to me. So I spent the next 4 years trying to figure it out. And at times it seemed very scary, and I was alone and afraid and had no idea what I was doing. But I started researching things that made sense to me. And to me, I know the power of the immune system. It has the ability to heal a cut on your hand. So to me, it made sense that it could heal anything else inside my body as well, if I just gave it the strength to do so. So I started finding ways to boost my immune system, changing my diet, adding in supplements, changing, pretty much everything in my daily lifestyle. After about 3 years, it was still a SIN3. I wasn't changing. It wasn't getting worse, but it wasn't necessarily getting better. And I end up doing escharotic treatments, which is a topical application of natural substance they put on the cervix, and it helps get rid of the mutated cells, leaving the healthy cells intact. And I went ahead and did those procedures. There was 10 of them. I did every 2 or every 3 weeks. And after that, waited 6 weeks, got an independent PAP from another provider, and came back with a clean PAP for the first time in 7 years, and have been clean PAPs ever since early 2017. So that's a little bit about my story and the way I found healing naturally from HPV.
Awesome. And so that was back in 2017, so we're looking at about 2 years now of clean PAPs since.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks. How about you? What's your story?
So I first found out my diagnosis. I just had an abnormal PAP. I went in for my annual yearly PAP. I went through Planned Parenthood, actually. I just want to give them a quick shout out. They have been very instrumental in this process for me and having access to healthcare. They sent me a letter back saying that you have an abnormal PAP. Don't freak out, but come back in 6 months. On kind of type A. I freaked out a little bit. So I immediately went to my gynecologist in town who took my insurance, and I just wanted to go right away and tell them what had happened. So I went and I got another PAP done with them, and they confirmed that they also had abnormal cells, and they requested a colposcopy. Very similar to your story, I had a colposcopy done, and 3 out of my 4 biopsies came back as SIN 3, or high-grade cervical dysplasia. They immediately recommended that I try and get a LEEP. If I have this virus inside of me that has caused these abnormal cells, well, just because we cut off the abnormal cells, how does that prevent it from just regrowing back again? Like, how did we address the virus at all? And I ended up finding a naturopath. I went and I visited her. She actually specialized in gynecological treatments, and she kind of gave me this 3-part plan. We'll go over that in a little bit, but mine included a radical change in my life for a couple of months to try and boost my immune system as high as it could possibly go to see if it would eradicate the HPV. Courtney, I'm going to open the floor up to you here. Why did you choose a natural approach over a Western medicine approach?
Yeah, I mean, the honest answer there is it chose me. I tried the Western approach. I didn't know, any different. I trusted what the doctor said. And it wasn't until I got frustrated with Western medicine that it wasn't working, that they weren't giving me a lot of answers and they weren't giving me a lot of hope, that I decided I had to do things differently, that I had to figure out a different way to do it. The other thing I think that was a big influence is I still want to have kids, and, you can cut a little bit away at your cervix, but if you keep cutting away, the harder it is for the cervix to hold a child in. So it just didn't resonate with me. And that's when I had to find a different way. So I tried Western, it didn't work. And so I found a way that did. How about you?
Although I didn't try the Western approach, and I touched on this a little bit early here in the video, is I kind of made a deal with myself, and I made a deal with my naturopath. I told my naturopath that I would give her 6 months, and then if I really liked her, 12 months before I considered the Western approach. I always feel obligated to share this with my patients or with my friends and family, is I'm very pro-Western healthcare when you need it. I think that there is a kind of like a hierarchy of how you can address your body, and in some cases it is safe to take a little bit of time to try a more natural and holistic route before you go the Western. But I knew that even if I ended up getting a LEEP or, the cone or the cryo, there's lots of different procedures that they'll do. I knew that if I had at least spent the next 6 to 12 months boosting the heck out of my immune system, that at least my body would heal better from those. And hopefully I wouldn't end up needing a second one later, because again, the whole pregnancy thing and everything you already explained is also something that I had in mind at that point. That's how I ended up choosing natural. And luckily for me, I didn't need to step into the Western, which is so great to be able to share the story with everybody here. And I'm so excited to keep hearing about yours. So why don't you tell me a little bit about, I know you touched on this already, but how long it took. Just go briefly over your timeline again.
Sure. It felt like it took forever. It was a really slow process. It was 7 years of HPV. It was about 3 years of doing the Western approach that didn't work, and about 4 years of more of the natural approach. And I know people want to take a pill and then go and get their next clean pap. And that's just not the case. It's not how it works. Healing naturally takes time. Your body is doing a lot of work in there, writing a lot of things that are out of balance. And that, takes a lot of time. And for me, it was really important to remember to stay determined, to stay the path, no matter what happened. I had a lot of abnormal paps, even as I was trying to heal, even as I added supplements, even as I changed my diet and did all the things. I kept getting abnormal paps, and that made you want to give up. But the thing is, you can't give up. I think the most important part is staying focused on what you want and on what you believe in is really important. And I believed that the natural path would work for me. I just had to take the time to figure it out. So in the end, it was 4 long years. But I did find healing, and I know other girls can too. And sometimes it doesn't take that long, and sometimes it might take longer. But the most important part is not giving up.
Awesome. Love that. Well, I feel like I fall on the other end of that spectrum. I kind of went a crazy concentrated route. The plan I had with my naturopathic doctor was 6 months. I did 6 months of a couple of changes, which we'll go over in the next question here. I knew that if I got a first good clean pap after 6 months, I would continue some of those good habits for a second 6 months, so a total of 12. And then at the end of that 12, I could feel good about not needing to take the Western approach. So all in all, it took 12 months for me to be able to rest easy and sleep at night, that I was going to be okay. But it was really 6 months that I went from my CIN3 or SIN3 high-grade cervical dysplasia down to totally normal PAP. But again, that second PAP was really important because we needed to see that when I scaled back on everything, did that hold for 6 months. So I'll say confidently about a year to really secure natural healing of the virus. So here is my favorite question. I'm so excited to go over this one. Courtney, can you share with everyone what your top 3 things that you did daily that you felt helped the most in your healing journey?
Absolutely. And a lot of them are really simple. You know, some people look for like one big answer, but it is, you know, really getting back to like taking care of yourself and taking care of your body. Number 1 was sleep. We don't get enough sleep. We spend, you know, our nights watching movies, staying up late, and then get up early to go to work. And for me, that was just like finding the time to make sure that sleep was a priority, because when your body is sleeping, your body is healing. It is restoring itself. So making sure I got 8 hours of sleep. And if that wasn't enough, I took naps. Like I made sleep a priority so that my body was well rested. Number 2 would be water. I know it sounds simple, but we are all walking around dehydrated most days, and we're not getting enough water in our body. We are made up of 78% water, and we need to be like replenishing those cells every day. So starting my morning off with an 8-ounce glass of water, and then carrying around my water bottle with me everywhere I go, and staying hydrated all throughout the day. Again, if your cells are hydrated, they're going to be more in a state of healing. And then number 3, which is really important for me, was changing the way I reacted to stress. And it doesn't mean going and living in a bubble, because the world is stressful sometimes and you can't just stay inside your house. That's stressful too. But you can control how you react to stress. So even if there's stressors in your life, even if things stress you, seem to stress you out, you can still change that reaction. You have control over your own body and how you change and how you react to those stressors. So I just really had to like not let things get to me so much and not worry about it and not get upset at the little things, because the little things didn't matter. And I knew that every time I was getting stressed out, I was putting my body in a stress state, and it goes into fight or flight, and that changes all of your hormones and your cortisol levels. And that's not a healing state that I wanted to be in. So changing my reaction to stress was maybe one of the most important things I did.
Awesome. Well, in terms of my top 3, mine were really handed to me on a silver platter, and I feel so lucky. So I'm excited to share this with everybody. I'll start with the worst news I got. You can't drink for 6 months. I think I was 22 or 23 at the time. I was just able to legally go drinking, and they told me that drinking causes systemic inflammation in your body, and systemic inflammation is a breeding ground for viruses and sickness and disease. So that was the first thing that I needed to scale back on 100%, with the exception of maybe like a wedding. And then the other thing that we did is I did a food sensitivity test. So I found some foods that were irritating to my body specifically. Strange things like pineapples and walnuts are apparently inflammatory to my system. If you've ever adopted an anti-inflammatory diet, it was basically that, but with a couple of additions that were unique to the way my body processed food. For my supplements, the ones that my naturopath prescribed to me were vitamin A, very high dose of vitamin C, folate. I was on vitamin E drops. We can link to some of these specific dosings, and we'll touch on that later so that we don't have to get into all the nitty-gritty there. And then the last third thing that I would say was super important in my healing process was the escharotic treatments. They were expensive. I put it on a credit card. I had no income. It was tough, but I did it. So I did similar to you. I did 10, but mine was every single week. So I did one a week for 10 weeks. And then in between, my naturopath gave me internal suppositories that were based with green tea. Those 3 things, so my food and alcohol elimination for anti-inflammatory purposes, the supplements that I took to boost my immune system and heal my cells, and then the suppository escharotic rotation, I would say, are my top 3 things that I attribute. It wasn't just what's that one thing I did? Like it was an entire system of change that I had to embody and embrace. So I'm curious to know how much of all those changes that you made back then. How much of it are you still doing today? How much are you still adopting today?
Well, it's been nice because I've been able to, relax a little bit, have a few glasses of red wine, which is really nice, I have to say. But the thing about it is you're not just like adding in these few healing things and then letting them go. It's an entire, like you were saying, an entire lifestyle change. So a lot of these things have stuck with me. The way I eat, I still like to eat healthy because it feels better, because my body feels better and I know my immune system is stronger, and that's going to help me through any other illness or disease I encounter in my life. So I still eat pretty healthy. Every once in a while, maybe, I'll have a little more bread or something, that I wouldn't necessarily let myself do before. There's a little more wiggle room than there was when I was definitely, in the healing zone. But I still take a few supplements just, again, to help my body feel strong. But I don't take, a dozen supplements like I did before every day. So a lot of it has stuck with me. I still always try and drink water and stay active and sleep well. These are lifetime lessons that we learn. In the end, I almost feel like HPV was like a blessing in disguise, because it made me get my health in order. It made me learn to take care of myself, to be stronger in the end. Like, I know anything else that comes my way, I will be more equipped to handle it in the future, because of all the lessons I learned from healing naturally from HPV.
I love that you just called HPV a blessing in disguise, because I feel like when I first got that diagnosis, it certainly was not at all. And I'm sure anyone who's watching this video who recently or at some point got that diagnosis knows it doesn't feel great to hear that. But you're right. For me to answer this, how much am I still doing today? A lot of the things that I had done was super unique to trying to combat the HPV. So no, I'm not still getting weekly escharotics. No, I don't do suppositories. In terms of those HPV supplements, I'm essentially taking none. And for my food, I would also like to say that I'm not perfect in my diet. Those 6 months that I was trying to concentrate the most ideal, optimal health in my body, it was like no BS. I didn't have the cake. You know what I mean? I eat the cake now. So, and I also still enjoy drinking. Yeah. And I don't even know if I said this, how long I have been HPV or PAP, my clean PAPs for. But I'm going on about three years now. So that's pretty exciting. So I would say, at least in terms of the timeline, yeah, I was really strict for 6 months, and then I scaled back the intensity for a second 6 months, and then I kind of resumed life as normal. But as a natural healthcare provider myself, I was really enveloped in the health and wellness world, so it was just kind of a part of my daily routine. Courtney, if you were to go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice, what would you say to yourself?
Don't freak out. Because I did. Because it's really easy to think that this is the end of the world, that this is the end of your life, this is the end of your dating life, that your life will never be the same again. All those thoughts went through my head. And then the more research I did, the more I realized this is not a death sentence. Less than 5% of HPV cases actually turn to cancer. This is not the end of my dating life. There's a lot of people who are really kind and understand. And also, it's very common. More than 80, maybe even 90% of the population will have HPV at some point in their lives. Unfortunately, they don't test men. Men don't even know they have it. So that makes it really interesting. Women here are held accountable, and there's a lot more stress and stigma associated with HPV, I think, put on us. So we worry about it and we feel ashamed. And I wish I could have just, known like, it's going to be okay. It's not going to be that bad. Like finding some friends and some family to help support, finding the support group. If you're not a part of Empower and Shine yet, go to facebook.com, become a member. There are some great women in there that will help you feel supported. You are not alone in this. And making sure that I knew like life will go on. It's going to be fine. You're going to get through it one way or another. It will turn out all right. So just, remembering not to freak out and not letting your head jump to the worst case scenarios, because most of the time it's not that.
Okay. If I were to go back to 2014, 2015 me, I think what I would say to myself is don't be afraid to take your time before you make a decision. One thing that was tough for me is when I shared with my Western medical doctor what my plan was, she gave me the crazy eyes. And she was like, don't do that. We shouldn't chance this. You're as high grade as it gets before you turn into, stage 1 cancer. But, man, I'm in my early 20s. I can't give this 6 months. If at any point you feel like you need to make a decision because you just got a diagnosis, or if fear is seeping in, fear is so powerful. I felt it. I was a natural health care studier, and I a few times thought maybe I'll just go cut it out. Then I won't have to deal with all of this. Don't be afraid to take a beat. Think about it. Get another opinion. Talk to other women who've been through this. You do have time. The statistics of HPV, these high-grade strains progressing into anything dangerous, for the most part, it's a very slow-moving process. So taking even 10 days, 14 days will likely not make or break you. I thought every day I waited, I was one step closer to dying of cervical cancer or never being able to have children, and all of that seeped in. So that's what I wish someone had said to me in that moment.
So just to wrap it up a little bit, if you're not a member of Empowering Shine, go to facebook.com, become a member. There's great women there to help find support. If you are a member, make sure to check out all of the files sections within the group. They're kind of up top. You kind of have to scroll over to find them. But there's a list of all the supplements that we talked about today. There's links to different places to get, healthy diet going. There's some links to different doctors that do escharotic treatments. There's plenty of helpful links in there, so make sure to look around. Make sure to find a friend. Know that it is a safe space to talk about this, because I know sometimes it can be challenging. If you have any questions for us, feel free to comment down below. Give us a like or a share if you'd like. Christina, anything else to add in?
I know that you started this amazing support group on Facebook. Man, do I wish that I had access to speak to other women who were going through this or who had gone through it at the time. It was a lonely island that I sat on, and a shameful and sad one. And what you have created on Facebook, I just want to say thank you so much for doing that. I know that there are thousands of women in it, and I'm sure if only one was impacted and felt supported, this would all be worth it and all the stress. So just want to say thanks for that. And I'm excited for all the women who now have access to the support that neither one of us did during our journeys. Cool, guys. Well, thanks so much for letting us share our stories. Again, if you have any questions, you want to reach out to us, we're both open books. But of course, it's much better if you just drop a comment below so that any question you have, we can answer for everyone to see. And I guess until next time, take care, Courtney. Bye.
Thanks.